Hello students, in our first session we are going to discuss what is ethics, what are its consequences, its determinants, its dimension, how it is applied to the public and private life. Okay, but before coming to that, let's see a case study over here. Okay, understand that there is a trolley driver. Okay, his brakes are failed. Now the course of action over here is either he can let the trolley flow in the natural direction. This will lead to death of the 5 people who are standing on the track. Is it clear? But if this driver steers the wheel, okay, then it will lead to death of only one person. So the question or the dilemma over here is 5 lives versus 1 life. What is the right thing to do over here for this trolley driver? The question over here is what ought to be done? What ought to be done over here? Similarly, such kind of ethical dilemmas you are going to face when you will be a district collector. What should I do? Should I take a decision making where it is considered for 5 people versus where the decision making is just about the minority section? The debate over here, you see, the dilemma is majoritarianism versus the minority rights. Is it clear? Now, in this case scenario, right, there will be lot of schools of thoughts. The first one, the utilitarianist, is going to say that Mr. Driver, you steer the wheel. Why? Because at least for the larger good, right, at least 5 lives will save. The utilitarianist like Jeremy Bentham, he is going to argue that any action that you do or any action can be ethically justified when it is taken for maximum good of maximum number of people, where as a district collector you are maximizing the pleasure for your people, for the welfare of the people, and you are minimizing the pain or the suffering for the people. Is it clear? Similarly, in this case scenario, Kant is going to come with his deontological perspective. Kant is going to say that Mr. Driver, who has given you this consent to take even one human life, right? Right to dignity, the one man over there who is standing, and since even the natural course of action of the trolley is not there, he deserves to live, right? Who has given you this consent to steer the wheel? Now this is a dilemma for the driver, what he should be doing, right? Even the virtue ethicist, they are going to argue over here, taking life in any form is wrong. This is the scenario you will face in your real life governance. Now, let me discuss one another case study over here. Suppose there is a doctor, okay, and there are 3 ill patients. First patient needs a kidney transplant. The second patient over here needs a heart transplant. The third patient over here needs a liver transplant, and this has to be done in 1 to 2 months, right? It is on urgent priority. But there is another one patient of a doctor who is already present in coma, right? And all his 3 organs are working. And doctor knows this, that after 6 months, because it is terminal illness, he is not going to survive. Now, the question, the ethical dilemma or the question again over here is, what is the right thing to do? Should the doctor take away the 3 working organs of this terminally ill man and put it in the patient's? Should the doctor be saving 3 lives or if he does not does that, this man has very feeble chances of survival, but after 6 months even they will not be surviving. Now this is the dilemma for the doctor. Similarly, you are the doctor of administration, you are going to face such kind of scenario. What are you going to do? So again, the consequentialist will say to the doctor, why don't you save the life of these 3 people? 3 versus 1, at least 3 people will be surviving. The decision making has to be done that. But again, deontologists will come here. They will say, doctor, your means are not right. Your means should be as pure as the ends. The life of this person, no matter what, he has the right to life of dignity. You can't take away the organ of this person and give it to the other 3 people. Now this is the ethical dilemma again we are facing over here, right? So such kind of dilemmas you are going to face in your case studies, mostly sustainable development and versus the welfare scheme for the poor, housing developmental welfare scheme. Such scenarios will be coming up and we will be dealing with such case studies. Is it clear? Now coming to today's class, what is the essence of ethics? Okay, for ethics, again I will repeat, in such case studies, 2 things you have to remember, that you have to always supplement your answer with the constitutional morality. As a bureaucrat, as a civil servant, your duty will be that constitution is the supreme law of the land. You will uphold the values of justice, equality, fraternity, liberty. Is it clear? That should be reflected in your approach of decision making in governance. Second thing over here, that please supplement the answer by second Administrative Reforms Commission's 4th report, Ethics in Governance. Many students, they do not do that. This is not a layman common paper on ethics. This is ethics, integrity and aptitude, where in governance you are writing a paper of civil services. So you need to supplement it, whatever the document has been mentioned. Is it clear? Because as a bureaucrat, your work is to implement the policies, not make the policies. So implementation of policies will be done when the government documentation will be mentioned in your answer. That is going to fetch you more marks. Okay, is it clear? Let's begin the class. And please put the syllabus of ethics in front of your study table. Okay, so what is the essence of ethics? Iska tathya kya hai? Iska maina kya hai? Right? Ethics derives its meaning from the key word ethos. And ethos means virtue or character. Here, it deals with the objective norms which are set after there is a differentiation in the righteousness, in the wrongness of the action. Now understand that ethics is not religion, ethics is not any law, ethics is not just morality, ethics is not just any customary norm, right? Ethics, these are, I will write down over here, these are a standard objective norms, right, which are acceptable to the society, right, which are acceptable to the society. For example, if I say you do not lie, now understand that if everyone starts lying, if everyone is going to do that, what will be the consequence, right? It will lead to chaos in the society. So that is why to be morally uprighteous, you need to be honest, right? Because if you lie, it is going to set a bad precedent in the society. Is it clear? Now, another thing, any ethically done action, in any ethically done action is good, or you can say it is morally right, when there is what, why, and how, all these parts have been answered well. For example, there is an old lady and she has to cross the road, right? So what is your objective? What is the nature you are doing this? How are you doing this? How are you doing this? With a lot of compassion. What are your intentions? And why are you doing this? Right? Again, this is how we justify that any action is ethically good or wrong. Is it clear? The essence of ethics over here. Now, determinants of ethics. What are these determinants? These are the factors which are describing. There are certain internal factors, for example, your consciousness, right? Your own value system. There are certain external factors, for example, the family, the school, the friends, the education system, right? We are going to see this. What are the consequences of the ethics? Now, the consequences can be seen as, again, global consequences you see in international ethics, you see in environmental ethics, right? Consequences in the public life you see, consequences in the personal life you see, right? We are going to discuss in detail after this. Just let me give you a brief. What are the dimensions of the ethics over here? Now, ethics has been divided for our study majorly into 4 dimensions. The first one over here is meta ethics. In meta ethics, I will just say what is truth. सत्य के मायने क्या हैं? सत्य क्या होता है? Right? It is the foundational building block. That's it. I will not be describing or prescribing or applying it anywhere. ठीक है? Second one over here is the descriptive ethics. In the descriptive ethics, I will be dealing with what is acceptable as justice in the society, what is acceptable as truth in the society, right? I will see it, I will describe how a group of people see it together. Is it clear? Now, in the prescriptive ethics, now this is the action-oriented ethics. This is basically important for your exams, and this is the normative part of ethical decision making where you are taking action upon any act, right? For example, again, here we will be discussing various thinkers. The first one over here, we will discuss about Jeremy Bentham when he gives his pleasure calculus, right? We will be discussing about the Immanuel Kant over here. We will be discussing about John Rawls over here, right? All these ethicists, Aristotle, Plato, we will be discussing over here. Now, because they are giving you an approach to ethical decision making, if you are stuck in a scenario being a bureaucrat, is this the right thing to do? Always the question is, what is the right thing to steer through those dilemmas? Is it clear? Now, the last one over here is applied part of ethics. In the applied part, nowadays UPSC is asking a lot of question application as seen in artificial intelligence, in cybersecurity, in environment, in international, because recently Ukraine, Gaza, we have seen a lot of instability in the international scenario, and this question has already been asked in your past year 2024 mains. Is it clear? That's why I'm saying that every keyword has its own relevance in ethics syllabus. Now, the last thing, how is the ethics in public and private relation? Here also UPSC has asked the question, how do you differentiate between the ethical action in private life and public life? We are going to see that further. Is it clear? The summary of today's class is this. Let's begin the class. So, what is the major nature of ethics over here? It not only distinguishes between right and wrong, but it evaluates whether the conclusions which are drawn from it, okay, they stand as objective and universally applicable norm for all the human conduct. Is it clear? What happens that every day you see that on WhatsApp University, they use this term that some information is floating, right? And you don't even verify it. And you just, as a very unresponsible citizen, you keep on sending it to other people. We have seen those people who are not very digitally literate or very, aware of the news in this post-truth democracy era. Those people, they do these things a lot, especially the elderlies. So, as a citizen, is it right? Is it a righteous public behavior? So, I will say no. It is ethically a wrong public behavior over here, right? Sometimes we notice that some extra money payment has come to us, some beams transfer, some bank transfer, some UPI transfer. So a ethically right citizen is going to return back the money. Why? Because this is how the ethics is also internally driven. It is not that some external accountability check has to always be there, because it defends the principles of justice and fairness. Now, in this case study, what happened that during the time of Kerala fund, what happened, the district collector, whatever extra money he got for the relief of the funds, he gave it back to the government. Now, this depicts a very uh, nature of integrity, probity in governance of the bureaucrat. Is it clear? Now, this is what I was saying, that ethics is not just morality, but there is a rationality. There is a rationality that what kind of objective norms it is going to set up in the society. Is it clear? Now, apart from this I have already discussed that it comes from the keyword ethos, guiding principles for the humans, right? Now, what are the essential characteristics of this essence? First of all, ethics is based on the rational foundation. There is logic to the things. There is a universal application. Okay, you don't blindly follow it. Rather, you apply the rationality, critical analysis, and logic over here. It has a universal application. Example, lying is wrong. Lying is wrong in India. Lying is wrong in America. Lying is wrong in Africa. So it has a universally set standard norm. Now it is prescriptive in nature. Okay? It is not merely how do we behave, but it tells us how we should behave, right? How we should be doing, what ought to be done. Is it clear? It is reflective and it is critical. It is continuously questioning. For example, Sati Pratha. Sati Pratha was absolutely right in 17th, 18th century. It was considered a matter of women's morality, right? Parda system. It was considered a morality for higher status women, higher status society women. But in today's time, Sati is morally wrong, right? Ethically, it's immoral because you are taking a life of a human. Is it clear? Now, it is action oriented. The decision making over here, basically, they are guided by the real life situations, right? The action which you have to take. Is it clear? Now, ethics matters at individual level, right? I will have a personal integrity for the examination that at 6 o'clock I have to be present at the library, right? I will have that much of integrity for myself that I will be there even when there is no, my mother is not calling, my father is not calling, my friends are not calling. It is my own ethical responsibility as a student to be at the library at 6 a.m. This is the kind of individual ethics. It transforms the human existence and makes him more responsible, right, and inwardly oriented. Second thing over here, at the societal level, if you see, right, what happens that at a societal level it creates solidarityness. You understand tolerance? Example, if I give you, tolerance in the society is that ethical virtue which leads to harmony and cooperation, right? At the institutional level, it definitely leads to accountability, transparency, which brings in legitimacy and effectiveness. Okay. At the global level, we see the kind of justice it brings. For example, black right movement was there. There was a, you can note down the case studies also over here. Recently, not recently, in 2017-18, Navtej Singh Johar case, okay, decriminalization of homosexuality under section 377 of IPC had been done by Indian constitution. Now, government said that at the global level, at the global human right level, the Victorian morality which was imposed during the British colonial era itself, in the British, in the England, they had removed this. But why that law is still sustaining in India, right? So these kind of changes are brought. Definitely, it brings, ethics bring uniqueness of human moral agency. How? It brings consciousness, it makes you aware, right? It gives you freedom and choice. You are responsible ethically for all the choices you make in your life, right? It gives you rationality. Do not accept anything with a blind faith. If somebody has hypothetically said he, this so and so is the person and he can cure you just by saying these few words, I'm trying to say that blind faith concept, it gives you a rational mindset. This is right, this is wrong. That kind of human categories of intellect, they start working. There is empathy in the decision making, right? When you are a bureaucrat, you will be in a situation, what should I do, what should I do not? Then you will step into someone's shoes and you will analyze the situation. That is empathy, samanubhuti in Hindi we call that. Okay. uh okay, so first part is clear. What is the essence of ethics? Now, understand the second part over here. What are the determinants of ethics? First of all, it is said that John Locke has said that the human is always born with a blank slate. Okay, it's a tabula rasa. And what happens with socialization and education? He is learning a lot. Okay. Now, there are certain, these moral determinants. Okay, these are the factors over here. So basically, the internal factors which determine the ethics for a person is his cognitive capacity to think, to analyze the situation. Is smoking right or wrong? You can't impose restrictions, you can't put accountability check. Do not cheat, that can never happen. That has to come with reason, that has to come with internal change. Everybody has that capacity. It is just that you have to question, you have to have a Socratic method, because Socrates has said unexamined life is itself not worth living. Is it clear? Now, apart from this, let's see if there is any distribution of the welfare resources. A civil servant, he has to ensure that what are the cost benefit analysis in that scenario. Is it clear? This we are going to discuss in the case studies. But sometimes if you use too much of mind, if you use too much of pure reason and logic, as we had seen in the case of Nazis bureaucracy, we had seen that it had led to Holocaust. One more thing I would like to say here, in your essay and in your ethics answer writing, you can quote a lot of things from world history, okay? Because those are the set standards which have happened, and you can pick up actually a lot of stories, inspirational stories of the leaders from there. Second internal determinant over here is your consciousness, your inner voice. I'm just going to give the interview, and I was about to enter the metro station, and then I see a small child. He's crying and he's asking me that please give me some food. That point of time, you are in a dilemma that should you be running because you are in because you will be late for the interview if you don't catch this metro. Another metro is coming in 15 minutes. Or should you be going? Your conscience, your inner conscience is saying you that he's a child and he should not be hungry. So what do you do in that ethical scenario? This is that conscience, your inner voice, which is telling you what should you do. right? Maybe I think this was a case study they have asked in the past year question, assuming that you must be carrying a tiffin with yourself because you will be sitting for interview in UPSC Bhavan. So I'm assuming that you will be carrying something to eat, at least one apple, one banana. You can give away to that child, and for that moment, you can even catch your train and you can even be satisfied internally. I have at least not let someone go away as hungry. Okay, so this is your conscience, the inner consciousness. About the values and the beliefs, right? This I will be dealing in the human values, that how the beliefs are changed into values, and how the values change into attitude, and how attitude changes into behavior. Okay, you can draw this diagram over here, that initially it is a belief system of a person. It, on this basis, it develops a value system of the person. On this basis develops the attitude of a person, and on this basis develops the behavior of the person. So what are these values? Basically these values are the guiding stars. Okay, they can be terminal values, they can be instrumental values. This we are going to discuss in the next class, but just let me give you an example over here. Terminal is first degree values, for example, honesty, courage, truthfulness, integrity. What are instrumental values? Fitness, right? Wealth, uh, beauty. So this is we are going to discuss later. So how values and beliefs are leading over here to be an internal determinant of the ethical system. Is it clear? Now, first of all, an administrator who values transparency, who wants that in his district the usage of Right to Information Act has to be done aptly, who wants that the internet penetration has to be so well done that the people they are digitally connected. Okay, this is going to create a more citizen centric grassroots level governance. Is it clear? Now the paper over here is about ethics in governance. So whatever example you pick, you can pick one common example, you can pick one governance example, but try to write something which had been happening. Those people who had, those bureaucrats who had contributed very good in the system, trying to bring in the ethical good governance, those examples will be really appreciated. Character and the virtue over here. Now Plato talks about that wisdom, justice, fortitude and temperance. These are the four major cardinal principles over here, right? Wisdom means that you are able to judge anything correctly or not. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Understand that. Knowledge is your intellect, right? And wisdom is your समझदारी, किसी चीज की गहराई तक समझ होना. That is wisdom. The prudence to understand anything with depth, not with the scanning eyes. Justice, people confuse that justice means ki equality, right? Everything has to be justly done. No, justice means fairness. Not everyone can be treated equality. When I'm talking about justice, okay, later in detail, I'm going to discuss over here about John Rawls' concept of differential equality, and this is going to lead to social justice. Is it clear? The justice should be about bringing fairness, not equality. Another one over here is fortitude and courage. Despite any kind of difficulties, okay, there has to be the courage of conviction that you do the right thing. Okay, Durga Shakti Nagpal, the IAS officer from UP cadre, right? She had been facing a lot of pressure from land mafia. There was a nexus that time between some other officials and the land mafia, but it was her courage to stand by in such situations, right? It was her fortitude that she fought again, and she did the right decision making by putting a complaint against the land mafia, sand mining mafia. Temperance, it is the self control and moderation. A bureaucrat essentially requires to be someone who has this self control over his emotions, right? Because that will lead to high emotional intelligence and again ethical decision making. Is it clear? So, this is how these are the determinants which are going to describe. Apart from this, there are emotional and moral sentiments also, which is again your internal determinants in your ethical decision making, right? If somebody is has a very empathetic attitude while seeing poverty, it can motivate him, right? Example we take over here is Armstrong Payne. He was he is a IAS officer in Manipur cadre, and he, because of his empathetic attitude, right, he had made 100-kilometer road connecting the tribals to the mainland, right? It was his empathy to do. He understood the situation of the people, and he did those things. Is it clear? Now, these were the internal determinants, but there are certain external determinants which mold the nature, the character, or the ethical decision making of a human or a child. First of all, it's the family. If your family is very secular, okay, it is respecting all the religions equally, a child from the childhood is going to pick it up, right? It will be definitely seen in his nature, and this family is your first socialization agent. Okay, here we learn direct teaching, we learn modeling, emotional bonding, discipline. All these characteristics we learn from the family. Apart from this, in the culture and society, there are certain shared beliefs somewhere. For example, few years, I will say few decades down the lane, there was a shared belief specifically in the western part of Rajasthan for female foeticide, right? Before the female was born, they were just getting the test done and they were killing the child in the womb. That was a shared belief system they had, because maybe in the patriarchal society the female was considered as a liability. But this is how it kept on developing another 10 years until there was a government intervention to rectify this killing of the unborn female child. Is it clear? So this is how, this is a negative example. Another negative example, if I give you, uh, there are some countries nearby in the South Sea Islands. They believe, now see, they believe that if you, if you, I will not use the word kill, if you end the life of your parents by the time they reach 60 to 70 years, you are reducing their suffering. This is their cultural belief, right? So they have developed that kind of decision, they come to that kind of decision making. But that is again not ethics, right? That is cultural relativism. Okay, now this is how it is affecting ethics. Now if you see another example over here, Indian culture, we are touching the elderly speech, right? This is showing the respect, and this is what has been a ethical norm in the Indian society, which is less prevalent in the Western society. Is it clear? What about how the religion and spirituality is also one of the determining major factor for your external determinant of the ethical decision making? Because many of the religions, they prescribe the moral code of conduct. There are 10 commandments which are given in Christianity, right? There are a lot of very well things which are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, the righteousness path, right? Even the eightfold path of Buddha, okay, it talks about the moral code of conduct. And the Quran, it also emphasizes on justice and compassion. So religious and spirituality, again, these lead are the external determinants of ethical decision making. Now what you can do, is, yes, education and learning. This also helps. This is also one of the external decision, external determinant. What you can do, you can make a tree chart over here. You can write down determinants of ethical decision making. What are the internal determinants? You can note down from this PDF. What are the external determinants? You can note out. If the question is coming, it is coming holistically, right? Now, apart from this, law and governance, this is the external determinant. Okay, there is a relationship between law and ethics. Law keeps a external accountability check on the ethics. See, law represents society's minimal ethical standard enforced by the state on the citizen. Is it clear? And ethics is the broader aspirational, which is based on the internal motivation. So, good laws will always lead to ethical uprightiousness. Bad laws, okay, bad laws may violate this ethics. For example, if I say you crossing a signal despite being there a despite there being a red light, is it ethically right? Is it a ethical behavior of a responsible citizen? No, you are breaking the law. You are doing ethically wrong in the wrong action you are taking in the public place. This is what it is talking about. So this becomes the external factor. Okay, again, we have to always supplement our answer with India's constitution, fundamental rights, and DPSP, right, which talk about ethical legal framework for the governance. Apart from this, we can see that external factors are also noticed in organizational culture and leadership, right? There are certain formal code of conduct and ethical policies in organizational ethics. Here I will again like to talk about that second ARC. It has mentioned certain code of conduct, just say all India civil service rules, right? All these are mentioned. And it is the second ARC in the fourth report is also talking about in terms of organizational ethics to bring in second ARC. It talks about the comprehensive ethical code bill. Is it clear? Again, UPSC in its PYQ has asked the question from this part, right? There are also certain situational determinants, okay, that how is the intensity of the act? What is the nature of the ethical dilemma over here? For example, if I say over here, a public health official, he faces a greater moral decision making or pressure in during the time of pandemic lockdown, right? So what happens in that policy decision making? What he is going to do? Then all his routine administrative decisions he is taking. So this kind of moral dilemma situation you are going to face. Situational determinants. What about the time, stress, and pressure? Even these lead to situational determinants of decision making in ethical case studies. Now, example you see over here, emergency room doctors, okay, they are making the decisions under extreme time pressure. I've just discussed there was a dilemma with the doctor above. He had to decide, should I take the life of this one man who is already having a terminal illness and is going to die, and save the life of other three people? That is a very situational, this is a situational determinant. उस वक्त पे आपने जो किया वो किया because that was the right thing to do at that point of time, at that place, right? What about the power dynamics and authority as a external determinants? Now even these are determining. We saw in Gujarat rights 2002, we had seen that how breakdown of the authority and rule of law had led ordinary people to commit the atrocities which will not have happened, would have happened in any ordinary scenario. Is it clear? Apart from this, there are certain psychological and there are cognitive factors which determine, again this, please see this diagram. I've picked up a moral development theory of Kohlberg's. You can also see that this is very similar to the Maslow's hierarchy law. Okay, where he's talking that initially the person he is worried about that I should not get punishment. And then he comes to the stage of self-interest. Then he wants to be a good boy. Then he tries to abide by law and order and some kind of morality. Then he actually starts thinking about the social contract. As a citizen, he is responsible to the state. And then, in principle, he starts reasoning about his personal ethics. So, this is how the various stages of moral development happen in the citizen. Is it clear? Apart from that, we can see there are certain cognitive biases also, right? Cognitive means mentally you're thinking. For example, actor observer biases, conformity biases, false memory, some halo effects we have, inside biases, in group biases, right? We see all this. For example, a government official, he may justify that favoring a relative as just this once, or everyone does it. Mentally you are thinking ki kya farak padta hai, everybody is doing this, what wrong I am doing, right? Even that is, by that he's trying to justify, or he's trying to rationalize his action. Is it clear? He's trying to use it as a as a psychological determinant in ethical decision making. Is it clear? Sometimes the decision making is done under very emotional states, right? Fear, anger, gratitude, and moral elevation. Is it clear? Now, having said that, we have discussed what is the essence of ethics. Essence of ethics was कि उसका तथ्य क्या है, उसके मायने क्या है. Determinants, that means what are the factors which help in ethical decision making. Third thing which we are going to see over here is what are the consequences of this ethics. Okay, first of all, let's see in the individual consequences. It is going to lead to psychological well-being. A person who is ethically uprighteous, okay, he is going to have that inner peace, he is going to have inner harmony. Okay, he will never be living in fear, he will have that self-worth and self-dignity, right? Reduced anxiety. Today anxiety is a very big term. In today's time, everyone is having anxiety, because when you're not satisfied internally, definitely you are going to face this, right? You have to have a sense of meaning to your life, and you are the one with your own value system. The human, as an existential human, when you come in this existential mood, you are the one who is going to give meaning to your life. You are the one who will be responsible for your choices. You are the one who has to take these choices also. Is it clear? You can't put the blame on someone for the decision making that you had done in terms of your personal and in terms of your professional life. Is it clear? Now, let's see over here one example which I have picked up. These corporate whistleblowers, they often report that despite the career costs, acting on their consciousness provides them psychological relief and restored self-respect. Is it clear? This is another example of ethics in governance. Character development. Over here, we notice that the consequences that a human is developing that higher sense of purpose in this life. And these habits, today you're honest, tomorrow you're honest, day after tomorrow you're honest. As a bureaucrat, okay, in your office when you're a district collector, so eventually what will happen, that will come in your habit, right? That is going to be habit. Your ethical action is going to solidify in your habit, which will be seen as your characteristic trait. It will become your characteristic trait subconsciously, and you will never know. It is like the virtue of getting up in the morning and hitting the library at 5 a.m. despite the cold winters in Delhi. That initially is hard, right? That kind of decision making you are doing, but then it becomes a habit, and then habit turns into the character of having perseverance. What is the character which develops in this? Is the perseverance, right? To be consistent. So this will be highlighted in your every aspect of life. This will be seen when you will be bureaucrat and you will be going to the work. You will be the one who has this habit of perseverance and consistency that will be noticed in your work done in the district. Is it clear? Now, consequences, another thing, definitely it leads to reputation and trust over here. It leads to definitely, example you can pick up over here, Warren Buffett, right? The reputation of Warren Buffett, he is exactly known for his integrity and his deals. He allows deals based on handshakes and attracting only ethical partners. Is it clear? Material consequences. Over here, I would like to take the example of Ratan Tata. We have, or you can take Johnson and Johnson. Johnson and Johnson had built his material position based on value. Even if I take the example of Ratan Tata, he has built entrepreneurship on the basis of corporate governance, on the basis of value system. Okay. Now, what are the social consequences over here? Now, this leads to trust and social cohesion in the society. There is peace and harmony among the communities if you are ethically uprighteous, right? It leads to development of social capital among the people, definitely leading to national capital, right? We notice this specifically in the Nordic countries of Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, right? We see that there everything, the governance is very, you see corruption free, lot of corruption free governance in the corruption perception index also. These Nordic countries, they are in the top always. Why? Because the governance which is developed over there is based on the social trust. Now, another consequence over here is the justice and fairness. Because of this, what happens that this distributive justice, it leads to development of all the segments of the society, because you can't be treating each one from the similar starting line. You have to make a starting line in the society or in your district. It has to be different for different people, and then you are going to say, now you start running distributive justice. Over here is also one of the constitutional value which is mentioned in Article 39 of the Directive Principles of the State Policy of our DPSP. Is it clear? Again, let's see over here. In terms of procedural justice, which ensures the fair treatment, and in terms of restorative justice, recently the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita has been talking, and UPSC again in its prelims means 2024 has asked the question in context of this. Now, in restorative justice, we discuss over here not only the restorative but also the reformative form of justice, which has been noticed in Tihar jail reforms that has been brought by Kiran Bedi. Is it clear? I will be bringing a terminology of 50 or 100 keywords, ethical keywords, with the definition and with the current affairs examples in the end of the course. Is it clear? Apart from this, we have seen collective welfare. Suppose if people are paying tax, there is tax compliance. It is definitely leading to rise of gross development product, GDP of the nation, and rising of nation's economy. Is it clear? Now, let's very quickly come to the part of dimensions of ethics. Over here also, cultural evolution is also one of the factors of the consequence of ethics in human action. We had earlier seen that it was in the South Sea countries, for example, somewhere in Papua New Guinea, they considered that if you take away the life of your parents at the age of 60 and 70, you are going to prevent them from pain and suffering in the older age, right? Is that ethically justified? Again, that is the question of cultural evolution and cultural relativism. Is it clear? Now, institutional consequences also, we notice over here that in terms of the consequence of ethics, that wherever there is compromisation of the institutional integrity, we had seen this in Commonwealth Games scam. This has basically led to degradation or unethical action in the government, right? Apart from this, we had also seen that how by implementation of Right to Information Act, right, how by the implementation of citizen charter in your district, you can lead to a good work culture, right? You can also it will also lead to a governance based ethical decision making in your district. Is it clear? It will bring in transparency, accountability, rule of law. All this depends on the ethics. All these keywords we'll see in further classes. Now, what are the other consequences of ethics in ethical decision making? Here we can discuss about the international relation. Now, international relation mein, the debate is often about realism versus the idealism. Okay, what is the meaning of realism? Realism is that where you think about the context of your national boundaries. Rabindranath Tagore had very well said, the world has been divided now into narrow domestic walls. And idealism in context of international ethics is based on the theory of Vasudev Kutumbakam, which means the earth is but one country and mankind its citizens. Is it clear? So now this debate has been going on in international ethics. This we have also seen in context of Russia occupying Crimea following the concept of realism, Russia expanding its territories into Ukraine territories, right? We had also seen recently what has been happening in Syria, Israel, Iran and Iraq, right? Now, in the environmental impact, I will be discussing in environmental ethics where it is talking about sustainable development for taking care of not only this generation but also of the future generations' need. As Mahatma Gandhi has already said that earth has not for everyone's greed but only for everyone's need. Over here, again, intergenerational justice we can see in climate justice recently. Please link it to the current affairs. COP30, the road to Belem has been noticed. Before this, there was COP29, which was your Baku Unity Climate Pact. But two significant COPs are very essential. COP27 in terms of environmental ethics, right, which happened in Glasgow, which talked that by 2070 India is going to have a carbon neutrality, right? Apart from this, we had also seen intergenerational justice in terms of Paris Climate Summit, which happened in 2015, COP21 over here. Is it clear? Now, this is all about how are the consequences of ethics. Now, understand, in the dimensions of ethics, UPSC itself has asked the question in 2024 in detail over here that what are the key dimensions of ethics. So there are 4 key dimensions. The first dimensions of ethics is known as meta ethics. Meta means whenever there is a building, there is a foundation stone which is kept. Okay, so meta is that. Meta is the essence, or you can say it is the foundational building block of ethics. Here I will be discussing that what is justice? What is this truth? I will not be discussing anything else, just that. The meta, the essence of the value or the term or the ethical terminology which has been mentioned. The second thing over here will be descriptive ethics. Now I will discuss over here that what it means, okay, what it means to be just. I'll write it down over here. What it means to be just. What is this just society? Right? It will be discussed over here in description, just a description of anything has been given. The empirical study, the observation part is discussed over here. Now, in your normative part of the ethics, this is also known as the prescriptive part. Prescriptive means something which has been prescribed by the doctor. This is known as your normative part of ethics, which is action oriented ethics. Over here we are going to see it talks about majorly what kind of action or ethical decision making you are going to take. The first one over here we will discuss is consequentialists, who locate the morality in the consequence of the act, in the end purpose of the act, in the utility of the act. They don't look for the means, but they look for the ends. The second one over here we will discuss is deontologists. And deontologists, they discuss about the concept of duty, that duty is for duty's sake. It is your duty as a bureaucrat to uphold integrity, right? It is your categorical imperative. And what is this duty? It is a universal commitment. It is a universal obligation. We are going to discuss that also. Apart from this, we can discuss over here teleologists. Again, they will be talking about the end purpose over here of any decision making you take, wherever, whatever you are doing in your district. Are you bringing justice and welfare to each and every section of the society? The end purpose should be that the justice should be served, that the welfare schemes are implemented on the ground level. Is it clear? Now, apart from this, we can also discuss over here Aristotle's virtue ethics, right? So these are the ways how you are going to deal with the ethical decision making whenever you are going to be stuck in the ethical dilemma. Is it clear? Now, the fourth one over here is the applied form of ethics. Now, on this part, now UPSC is asking a lot of questions. It basically deals with your environmental ethics, your international ethics. Okay, last year also question has been asked from both the parts. Ethics related to social media, you can say media ethics, and including the digital media and the normal role of media ethics. It is also dealing with the biomedical ethics, right? Application of ethics in normal real life situations. Is it clear? Now let's begin over here. So this is important. This part which we are dealing is actually important for your exam, and this will be the base for your case study answer writing. Whenever you will be writing the case study, it has to be, these terms has to be used over there. Okay. First one, meta ethics. I have just discussed that these are the foundation building block, right? There you are just describing satya kya hota hai, what is the nature of morality itself. Do objective moral truths exist? Is there any kind of morality which is existing? You are just questioning all this, right? Over here, again, it deals with moral realism and moral anti-realism, right? Now, this is little going into detail. Moral realism is based on the objective truth, like 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, definitely. Torture is wrong, definitely, it's morally wrong. To take life of someone is wrong. Again, here we will be coming to the part of subjectivism. We will be coming to the part of cultural relativism. I've just discussed a case above that in the South Sea Islands, we had seen that certain tribes, it's the Maori tribes, which had been taking the life of their parents at the age of 60 and 70 years because they don't want their parents to go through that kind of suffering. Now that is cultural relativism. Taking life is wrong. Absolutely, it is wrong. Objectively, I feel to kill someone is wrong. But what about the cultural relativism over there? Is it clear? So this is about the meta ethics, where the core question is just about what is right and what is wrong. Nothing much is discussed over here, right? It deals with the nature of the moral judgment. It looks at the origins and the meaning of the ethical principles. Is it clear? Now, another one over here, it talks about in the meta ethics is about the moral epistemology. Now, epistemology is the word which means theory of knowledge. How do we even know what is right? Is this the right thing to do? How do we know? Reason alone can discover the moral truth. Has been mentioned by Plato, Socrates, Kant regarding his Socratic methods, rationalistic approach. Now, there are empiricists who talk that only from sense experience, when I am going to see that lying is not wrong, then I'm going to learn that. Okay, so those are the empiricist thinkers. Pragmatic are those who are talking about taking a stance which is based on the practice in future. The moral truth is what works in future. In your governance, ethical decision making, when you will be a bureaucrat, it is very essential to have a pragmatic scenario. There will be a situation where it will be very hard to take a decision making, but you have to be that person who has to find a pragmatic solution. Is it clear? That is it about the meta ethics, where it is just talking, yes, slavery is wrong, yes, justice, what does it mean? It means fairness. That's it. You are describing that. The second component of the ethics over here is your descriptive ethics. Now I'm describing this slavery is wrong because it is leading to degradation of human life. It is against the conception of human dignity, right? So, apart from this, what people think right is, what people think is justice is, government is providing for the welfare needs of the people. Is this justice? Now, should the equals be treated likely, unequals be treated unlikely? Now here you're just describing, this is based on your observatory methods. Is it clear? How do people live and they behave morally in the real situations over here? But what is important for our exam, very important for our case study, is the normative part of ethics, or you can say the prescriptive part of the ethics. This is like a prescription of a doctor, right? He is telling you, if you have fever, then you can take paracetamol dolo, you can take combiflam, you can take crocin. This is how these approaches are going to tell you that in your decision making during the time, hypothetically any disaster crisis, how you should be dealing ethically with that situation, right? So basically over here, this discusses basically what ought to be done, what is the right thing that should be done as a administrator. Over here again, we see the three approaches over here. The first one over here is consequentialism. Consequentialism, they will locate, now all these three, they will locate the morality in the utility, in the consequence, in the end purpose of the act which is done by the people. Deontology, it will be dealing again with the duty-based ethics. It will be talking about the deontos, that duty should be done for the duty's sake. You should be having your detached attitude, right? And then you should be taking a decision making, because inherently it is good in itself, right? I'll be discussing in details. Virtue ethics, again, here we will be discussing about Aristotle's mean, right? About the virtues, that there is a golden mean for human livelihood, right? Because Aristotle here talks that The end purpose or the teleological purpose for any human life is eudaimonia, which means flourishing happiness. So a person should be living with a lot of virtues. He should not be a cowardice. He should not be tending towards cowardice. He should not be tending towards foolhardiness. Rather, he should be a courageous person in the golden mean. Is it clear? Let's start the class. This is very important. Consequentialism. What is their core principle? That the morality of the action, it depends on the consequence of the purpose. Now, from here, suppose I have to go here, right? There are multiple means to do that, right? This is the start line and this is the end line. Consequentialism, they do not think about the means. They are saying by hook or by crook, your purpose should be that the end goal should be achieved. For example, Subhash Chandra Bose, he wanted independence by any of the means. He was a consequentialist in his approach, right? After resigning from the Tripuri session, he led to formation of Forward Bloc in 1940. That is consequence-based approach where you are not caring about the means. Is it clear? Similarly, if I tell you entire of this, it is Mahatma Gandhi who takes care of the means. He says that the means has to be purer as the ends. Is it clear? Now coming back to consequentialist. Now here also in this consequentialist approach, first one we are going to talk about is the utilitarianist. In the utilitarianist, there are two thinkers. One is Jeremy Bentham and one is John Stuart Mill. Now Jeremy Bentham, he gives his pleasure calculus. Okay, and in his pleasure calculus, he is talking about that the common good or the common action should be done in that faith which maximizes the pleasure for the people, right? Maximum good for maximum number of people and which minimizes the pain for the public. For example, COVID-19 vaccine. COVID-19 vaccine had been brought. It had been made mandatory by the government. Certain people, they had been questioning this. Now you are forcing us to take the vaccination. How can you make it mandatory? But government said it is mandatory if you are coming to the public places. Now government had to put that restriction for maximizing the pleasure, for maximizing the good health of the common public, in terms minimizing the pain for the common public, that there should not be spreading of COVID-19 vaccine. Is it clear? The concept is clear. Okay, it is for the greatest good for the greater number of people. Example, okay. Over here again, this is Jeremy Bentham. John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill is giving his harm's principle. Okay, and in his harm's principle, he is basically talking that there are self-harming actions where I harm myself in my personal capacity, in my personal room. Okay, that is still acceptable in the society because that is something you are doing to yourself to some extent. But there are others harming action. Okay, in his statement of harm's principle, he gives others harming action. And here John Stuart Mill says that this others harming action, for example, hate speech, right? You are talking ill about some community. Is that acceptable? Is that kind of acceptable just on the pretext that you want to get maximum vote? No. Now again, that is ethically wrong over here. Is it clear? Your actions should be such that they reduce the pain and they maximize the welfare, they maximize the good for maximum number of people. Now these consequentialists, I take you back to that trolley scenario, these consequentialists are again going to say to the trolley driver, why don't you steer the wheel? Why the wheel? Yes, steer the wheel, not the wheel. What is called? Why don't you steer the vehicle, or why don't you steer the trolley so that at least only one life goes in compared to 5 life, right? They will be saying that this is a justified act, this is a ethically done act if you steer the wheel to the trolley driver. Is it clear? So these are consequentialist. Jeremy Bentham, please remember the two names, and John Stuart Mill. Now, Sarvodaya philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi, okay, it incorporates the utilitarianist concern for greater spiritual upliftment dimension. We can also discuss about over here about the subsidy which Indian government provides, right, despite of the regulations which WTO puts, the AOA agreement, right, agreements on agriculture, there is a de minimis calculus 5%, and the WTO is putting these restrictions that so much of subsidy you are getting and then you are giving in terms of National Food Security Act, you are providing so much of food free to your population, 75% in the urban areas and rural areas and 50% in the urban areas. How this is justified? But government is justifying this ethically because it is for the greater good, for the greater number of people. Is it clear? Again, deontological ethics. Now this is a different approach. Now when the trolley driver was steering the wheel, Immanuel Kant is going to specifically question him over here that, Mr. Driver, how did you steer the wheel? Who gave you that consent to take away even one human life, right? How could you make that conscious decision making over here, right? Now basically it deals with over here the concept of duty which arises from the word deo onto. Is it clear? It talks that the duty whichever has to be done, the duty is done over here only for the duty's sake, right? The duty, it is intrinsic value, it is your inner value that you have to abide by your duty. It is against any kind of personal inclination when you will be in the services. Is it clear? Now, as example, let me pick over here that yes, Mahatma Gandhi during the time of non-cooperation movement 1922, right? The Chora Chori incident had happened, and in the Chora Chori incident, why did he stopped immediately the non-cooperation movement? Because the citizens' duty over there was to carry out the movement via following the means of ahimsa, via means of satyagrah, via means of non-violence. But what did they did in Gorakhpur? They had burned the police station, right? And they had killed the British policemen. So it was against the duty being a true patriot citizen. So what he said, that the means are not purer as the ends. So that movement had been cancelled. Is it clear? Now, Immanuel Kant, he says that there is a categorical imperative. What is this categorical imperative? Suppose he says lying is wrong. Now, why lying is wrong? Because it is a universally accepted objective norm. It is going to set a bad precedent in the society, right? Over here. So this becomes your universal law. This is your categorical imperative. There are two types of imperative which Immanuel Kant has mentioned in his theory. One are the hypothetical imperative. If I do this, then I get that. This is the kind of imperative which is hypothetical. Categorical is without any kind of there is no if, there is no but, right? It maximizes the universal laws. Honesty, being honest as a bureaucrat is your duty, because honesty is intrinsically good in itself, right? It is not something extrinsically which has to be imposed upon you. This is what he's trying to say. It is your duty for the duty's sake, and you can compare it, this Kant's categorical imperative, you can compare it to Bhagavad Gita's, okay, Bhagavad Gita's Nishkam karma, where you have this duty attitude can only be developed as a bureaucrat when you have a detached attitude, when you are not attached with any kind of objective or the end purpose. Is it clear? So this is how the decision making has to be done as a bureaucrat. For example, a civil servant, he refuses to falsify the records even to expedite a beneficial project. Now, this civil servant is a man of very high integrity, right? He believes it is his deontological perspective to be a honest official, right? You can very easily mention the name of Ashok Khemka over here, one of the officers of very high personal integrity, right? Apart from this, I've already mentioned Bhagavad Gita's Dharma's concept and Nishkam Karma. Now, virtue ethics. Let's see this dimension also of normative ethics. Now, Aristotle has said that the end purpose or the virtue for human over here is eudaimonia, which is the flourishing happiness, right? And this virtue is basically excellence in characteristic traits which enable this flourishing human happiness. He gives his golden mean, and in his golden mean, Aristotle says that please don't be a fool, right? Don't be a foolish person. Don't be a coward person, but have a balance in life. Okay, you need to be a courageous person, okay, who has the courage of conviction, right, to have a flourishing eudaimonia or flourishing happiness. Example of courage of conviction, it can be seen in Abdul Kalam's and determination after failing multiple times in the project, right? He was the one who had restarted the Indian space program. Again, the courage or the eudaimonia has been seen in Malala Yousafzai's decision making, that after even getting stuck by the Taliban on her by the gun, she was the one who still stepped out and has been working for the welfare of the women education. Is it clear? Flourishing human happiness. You need to have that kind of virtue. You need to have a courage in decision making, a balanced golden mean when you will be a bureaucrat. Is it clear? See, a virtuous administrator, he does not follow the rules mechanically, but he exercises practical wisdom over here, right? Now, care ethics. Now, care ethics will be a part of normative ethics, and somewhere it will also be applied to the it will be applicable to the applied form of ethics. Now, it depends its morality on the relationships, interdependence, and caring for others, specifically the vulnerable section, right? It talks about, okay, it has been propounded by Carol Gideon, and it has rejected the male biasness in ethics. Okay, this is, you can just read for your relevance. I just want to say that care ethics means that you are taking care of not only your own needs, but with your love, care, and compassion, you are taking care of the other people who are around you. Is it clear? A healthcare administrator designing policy for the elderly care, right, considers not just efficiency or rights, but the quality of relationships and dignity is dependent on compassion. Is it clear? Now, apart from this, another dimension which we will see is right-based ethics. There are certain natural rights, inherent human life, human right of life, inherent human life of liberty. There are certain legal rights which are granted by law, right? There are certain positive rights which require action, just a right to education, a right to healthcare. There are certain negative rights which require freedom of speech. Is it clear? Now, these are restrictions imposed by the state on the people. Is it clear? Now, I think again, I will bring you back to the classic trolley problem over here. Now, see over here. Now, see, after studying all these theories, utilitarianist, the Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, what is he going to say? Utility. Right? He is saying, what is the utility of this purpose? What is the utility of this trolley track? What should you do? He will say that always choose to save 5 lives compared to 1 life, and he will ask the trolley driver, you please steer the wheel. No matter whatever means you are taking, that is none of our concern. The end purpose is to save larger number of lives. The end purpose is to bring in maximum good for maximum number of people over here, right? Deontologist over here, Immanuel Kant, he is going to argue that this is wrong because you never had the consent. This was never the natural course of action. And also he says that active killing, this is you are consciously taking a decision, right? And this conscious decision is not your duty to kill. What is happening was the natural course of action, but now you're consciously taking. So that is wrong. See, another approach after we have discussed. We'll apply this in case study. Virtue ethicist. What would be a wise, courageous person to do in this context? He will be seeing, virtue ethicist will be saying him, right? He will be questioning him. What should you do? What kind of courage you should have? Because the brakes are failed. This is also we are going to see. Care ethicist. He says that who are these people? What relationships exist? Can we talk about them who are either this way or that way, who are going to face the consequences? But for our case study, the first two are going to be very important over here. And even the right-based ethicists are going to say that you can't trade away the right to life, right? Right to life for every person is equal. How much equal it is to these people, it is as equal to do with this one person where you will consciously steer the wheel. Is it clear? Now, the fourth dimension of our ethics over here is the applied form of ethics. And this applied form of ethics is seen in the bioethics. For example, euthanasia. Is it right? There was a Supreme Court judgment in Aruna Shaba case, right? What about the end of life decisions? Is it the right thing to do to take away the life? Suppose your animal is terminally ill and he is going through a lot of suffering, right? Your dog or your pet cat or whatever. So is it right to take away the life, right? So again, this is the issue of bioethics. About the designer babies in today's times, the more issue is about the designer baby. In China, there was a case study where one of the doctor, he had been picking up all the better genes and creating. Oh, can you be the God? Can you be that moral agency? Not God is not very apt word over here. Are you that moral agency to interfere in the act of nature, to interfere in the human evolution? The whole part is this, right? What about genetic engineering? What about the human experimentation which has been going all across? Is it clear? So this is concerned about the bioethics which has been happening in the current scenario. Now, in Indian context, we have seen about the surrogacy regulation. Now you have to basically connect this with the whatever in last 2 years scenario or the cases which had been going on regarding the surrogacy regulation. We had seen that commercial surrogacy has been completely banned. There are certain surrogacy rules, right, which had come up, which will be discussed in the socio-political parts. So if such a question comes from here, right, you have to identify basically from which dimension the question has been asked. You have to supplement it by the legal, procedural rights, institutional rights which has been method, and then you have to supplement it with the ethical theories also. Okay. Apart from this, medical negligence law. Recently, what happened few years back, there was a case in Gorakhpur where there were very less oxygen cylinders, and this led to death of a lot of children. Now, who is responsible over here? The administration, right? The doctors, the person who has been given the responsibility, the contractual worker. Who is responsible for this shortage of the cylinders? Okay. Now, another part of business applied ethics is your business ethics. Now, one of the key component over here is that this ethics has to be based on trusteeship model of Mahatma Gandhi, where the emphasis has been given on corporate social responsibility. In business ethics, I will say that it is always better to look forward to Ratan Tata compared to Reliance Industries, because the Tata Steel's Ratan Tata, he has been a entrepreneur. His focus has been on corporate social responsibility, working for the welfare of the education sector and other. He has been bringing up the hospitals and all, right? Compared to merely just being a businessman. So if you are uh, a businessman, it should be ethically done. Is it clear? You can see over here fair wages and working conditions for the people. The advertisement which you do has to be for the consumer. It has to be true, and it has to be not any kind of false news, right? The product you are selling and what you are saying and what you are promising is very different. That should not be done. There should be environmental responsibility if there is any kind of hypothetically some plastic product, right? Now, see, Tata's handling of 26/11 Mumbai attacks versus the Union Carbide's response to Bhopal gas disaster, it illustrates a contrast in the business ethics, because Tata, they supported the victim's family and they talked about that it is their legal obligation. They took upon that responsibility, right? They took upon the accountability upon themselves. When this Bhopal gas tragedy happened in 1984, this company, Union Carbide, it wanted to have the minimal responsibility taken or minimal accountability taken for the incident, right? And after this, we had seen that MC Mehta case decision had also been come up by the Supreme Court. Is it clear? Now, another dimension over here is environmental ethics. Okay, in the environmental ethics, here please always remember that you are going to discuss about sustainable development, and you are also going to discuss about Aldo Leopold. Aldo Leopold, in his land ethics, okay, in his land ethics, he talks that the land is a entity, right? As a entity, as a living entity, in this whole biotic diversity, okay, it's not that human, you can go and exploit the land over here, right? So the living has to be sustainable not only for this generation, but for the future generations to come. Is it clear? Now, from environmental ethics, a lot of questions have been asked. Anthropocentrism, right? Why only humans have intrinsic value? What about nature? Is it secondary? Is it instrumental value? This is one scenario. Biocentrism, all living beings, they are having intrinsic value. Ecocentrism, entire ecosystem, they have value beyond the individual organisms. Deep ecology, right? There's a fundamental equality of all the beings. Humans are not superior over here. Now, there is always a debate in environmental scenario. We have seen in, I think, Kasturi Ranjan, yes, Kasturi Ranjan sir committee had been settled up for uh, evaluation of the Western Ghat lines, okay, Western Ghat ecological lines. So there is a debate on Western Ghats ecology versus the development which has been happening. So environmental debate is that you have the right of development, but to what extent you are hampering the environment, now that is also ethically questioned, right? Now 2025 there was a case study that there was a ecologically sensitive zone area, and the government has to make, it is the DPSP of the government to make welfare to make houses for the poor people, for the welfare of the poor people. But the question is, why in that ecologically sensitive area? Why you want to allocate the land in that ecologically sensitive area? So you have to resolve that case study. Question number 8 in 2025 past year UPSC Mains of the ethics paper. Also in environment, you see that recently there were Dharali floods. If you remember, Dharali floods. They happened in August 2025. What was happening over here? Government has very specifically told the people over here that it is environmentally sensitive area, and it is a since it is a special environmentally sensitive area, and under Environmental Protection Act 1986, government has already told these people that please do not have any kind of construction activity. But despite this, because this was in Uttarkashi, there were a lot of vehicles which were standing, right? Lot of construction work was done, lot of hotel tourism activity has started. And what happened when the flash floods came? Ultimately, this was one of the natural calamity, but this was the anthropocentric activity. Because of this, further subsidence of land had happened. Similarly, it had happened earlier in Joshimath also. Is it clear? Okay, so professional ethics, another applied form of ethics we see. Okay, you should have competency, confidentiality. There should be no conflict of interest between your personal and professional ethics, right? There should be honesty and there should be accountability. Civil Service Code of Conduct emphasizes professional integrity, impartiality, objectivity, political neutrality, accountability, dedication to public service. All these key terms I am going to discuss in the class aptitude and foundational values in civil services. Okay, wait till then. Now, what about the media and the information ethics? Now, it is said that information is the new data in this democracy, right? And we have entered after 2016 into the era of post-truth democracy, where there is lot of false news, right? And where there is lot of misinformation and miscommunication which has been happening, and it is the duty of the media to maintain accurate reporting, to maintain privacy and public interest, to maintain sensationalization and responsible journalism, right? Media ownership, avoid fake news, right? Responsible reporting is very essential during the communal tensions. Is it clear? now. Okay, so I think we have covered pretty much. We have covered the essence of ethics. Understand तथ्य क्या होता है, ethics. What is ethics basically? It is rationality in action. It is morality plus rationality in action. Ethics are the are the objectively justified norms, right, which are acceptable in the society. Then we discussed about the determinants of ethics. What are the internal determinants? What are the external determinants of ethics? Then we discussed about the consequences of ethics. What happens with this ethical decision making? We did that. Fourth, we discussed about the 4 major key dimensions of the ethics. Now, this is the last part of today's class. This is what is ethics in private and public relations over here, right? If you see in private relation, let's see about the family ethics. A child is the first learner at home, right? So over here we see what about the parent and child relationships. A child is learning generosity, a child is learning happiness, a child is learning unconditional love, child is learning to be honest, to be true from his parents, from his family. If the family has very secular views, the child is going to be someone who is going to respect all the humans with equal dignity. Is it clear? See over here, adult children caring for the parents with dementia, they face these ethical questions about the autonomy, letting them make possibly harmful decisions versus the beneficence, making decisions for their welfare, right? So these are the kind of dilemmas which are faced in the scenario of personal ethics. Strong emphasis on parental respect has been given in our Indian scenario, and it is said that in terms of sibling ethics, what do you learn from your siblings? My brother has been like fighting with me since childhood, so but there is a bond as we grow up. There is a bond which converts into love, right? So we learn the sharing. There's a mutual trust. When he was a child, he had been complaining always to my mother, but as we grow, we learn that loyalty. We stand for each other. There is a brotherhood, right? This is you learn from your siblings. Apart from this, marital ethics over here, it talks about fidelity, it talks about honesty, equality, commitment, and care for each other. Okay, this is personal ethics. I don't think that much has to be explained over here. What was essential was that key dimensions of ethics that I had to tell you. Those key dimensions, right? And yes, this I will leave for you to see. Neighbor ethics, love thy neighbor, which is specifically mentioned in the 10 commandments of Bible, right? What are the ethics in public relationship? Now this is important, right? Because now you are a bureaucrat. For public relationships, first of all, for the citizen, it is very essential to obey the law. It is very essential to pay the taxes honestly. It is very essential to participate in the democratic decision making. Please go and vote. Okay? It is very essential to be a good Samaritan, right? Contribute to national defense, right? And constructive engagement. What is the state's duty over here? Protect the freedom, okay? Provide for the public good, ensure justice and rule of law, equal treatment, transparency, accountability, and promote the general welfare. Now, there is a social contract theory. In political science, it is said that there are 3 people, okay? There is John Locke. He talks about that a human is born with a blank slate, but it is state's legitimacy to protect the natural rights of land and life of the man, okay? Hobbes, he talks about that citizens are surrendering their duty. In the Indian Constitution, we see in the context of Article 19, right to expression, there are certain restrictions, right? We gave away certain rights to the government, but government in turn protects us. It is a two-way scenario over here, right? Similarly, Rousseau, He talks about the general will. Again, here he's talking about the conception of the ethical democratic form of government which is going to guide the governance system. Is it clear? Now, okay, these are the various scenarios which you guys can see through. Okay, nothing much has to be explained over here. One thing I would like to draw is, yes, but before this, please draw this diagram over here, which is very important. Okay, write down various ethical theories for solving the ethical dilemma. This is the major crux of today's class. The first one, please write down over here. You can draw a diagram like this instead, so that you can remember. Consequentialist, right? These are the one who locate the morality in the consequence of the act done. Is it clear? Deontologists, they locate morality in the duty. Okay, remember this from today's class. This is very essential. And further, I'll be expanding over here. Consequentialist over here can be seen as two. One over here is your teleologists. Teleologists over here, they talk about the end goal, or what is the teleos, the end purpose of any objective which is done. Is it clear? So in teleological ethicist, here will be Aristotle, and Aristotle, he argues that suppose that I have to distribute the flutes in the class. How will I be distributing the flutes in the class? I will make sure that he says that the best flute player should be getting the flute over here. This is what Aristotle says. He bases his teleology on the end purpose, which is again meritocracy. Is it clear? He is going to say, if somebody is not knowing how to play the flute, why do you want to give the flute to them? But now understand, this scenario of Aristotle's teleology over here, this is totally antithesis of the social justice theory which has been given by John Rawls. Now UPSC has asked the question regarding John Rawls' theory of social justice. John Rawls is going to say, what about those people who never got a teacher to learn the flute? Maybe if they get the teacher, then they can play better flutes. What about those poor people who could not even buy to afford the flute? Maybe they also have that inherent talent. Maybe they are that meritorious. Why can you, Aristotle, why do you judge like this, that you want to give the flute to the best flute player over here only? Why don't you want to bring in, to give at least the equality of opportunity. Why don't you want to give the equality of opportunity for every people? And on this basis, John Rawls, he has given his John Rawls, he has given is differential principle of differential equality, right? And in this differential equality, he says that the starting line of all the flute players cannot be the same, right? Similarly, this differential equality concept has been picked up in the reservation system of Indian context scenario. The reservation system which the government provides, or the affirmative quota system which is given in the public services and for the educational purposes, is because the government, it wants to bring in the starting line equal. Okay, it wants to bring in the level playing field for everyone equal instead of this. Understand? Can you ask a woman, a old man, a 5 years old child, a disabled prosthetic man, a pregnant lady, can you ask them, all of them, to start running the marathon on the same line? There are certain criterias, there are certain rules, because there are inherent biological and other physical inequalities which are prevalent. So this has been taken care of. Similarly, the parallel analogy over here is that because of the social and historical injustices which has been done to the various segments of the society, okay, what government does? Government provides the reservation system, right? And because of this reservation system, it tries to build in the social justice. It tries to build in the equality of opportunity for every citizen to start running their race from this line. Is it clear? Whenever the question is coming, so John Rawls, you are going to answer that there is equality. Okay, there is equality, but there are differences in equality. No, Aristotle, whatever you were saying that equal should be treated equally and unequal should be treated unequally, that is absolutely not right. Is it clear? So first point, this is clear. What is the meaning of the teleologist? Now, in this consequentialist, these teleologists, they base their whole theory on the concept of efficiency, because they want to see that the end purpose or the end consequence should be that the teleo should be efficient. काम हो जाना चाहिए. That is the main concept over here. But again, in this consequentialist, we are going to see there are another set of people who are utilitarianists. And these utilitarianists, they are going to locate the morality in the utility of the act done. Is it clear? Now they are going to see any act which is done, it is based on the utility more than efficiency and more than duty. Is it clear? In this utilitarianist, I had discussed earlier two people, Jeremy Bentham. And Jeremy Bentham, he gives his pleasure calculus. He says that for the welfare of the maximum good, you need to maximize the pleasure and you need to minimize the pain. So whatever decision making as a bureaucrat you do, it has to be for maximum good for the maximum number of people. This is the kind of decision making. What is the utility of that decision making? Is it clear? Another one which we study here is John Stuart Mill. And John Stuart Mill, he specifically tells that in the others harming action, right, this whole concept of hate speech, hate crime, cow vigilantism, mob lynching, Dalit lynching, whatever has been done is absolutely wrong. Is it clear? So this is how we are going to take the utilitarianist theory. The another point which I want you to note down is regarding the deontologists. Now, deontologists are those who base their theory on deontos, and the meaning of deontos over here is duty. The duty which is done in form of the detached attitude. The duty is inherently good in itself, and this duty over here is basically, you can quote it as duties for the duty's sake. You have no other personal inclination or objective over here. Is it clear? So over here, the thinker again in deontologist which we discuss over here is Immanuel Kant, and he says that as a bureaucrat, it is your categorical imperative to bring in transparency and accountability leading to ethical good governance in your administration. Why don't you use RTI? Why don't you use citizen charter? Why don't you use e-governance? Why don't you use Yogitha model? This is what he's trying to say over here. And these categorical imperatives over here, these are without any ifs and buts. Okay, we have just discussed. These are based on the concept of universality. Any ethical action which you are doing is judged on the basis of universality. To kill is morally unethical, universally unethical. To lie is unethical, right? It is setting a bad precedent in the society. Is it clear? For a bureaucrat, it is your professional duty, right, to be impartial and keep this approach in mind. Is it clear? So here I will wind up the class for today. In tomorrow's class, we are going to discuss about the human values in the personal life, and we will see it through the eyes of reformers, through the administrators, through the moral thinkers. Now, this will be very essential to quote in your case studies, in your answers, and also in your essay. Thank you.